The next episode opens with Mel in the Thornchain prison. She uses her new magic powers to escape, and then is greeted by a mysterious Black Rose lady. She's taking the form of the girl that Ambessa decapitated in Season 1, which wouldn't be my choice when trying to get someone on my side. You know that girl you watched lose her head when you were a child? Well, I'm her now. Not traumatic at all. She says, "Drink the moment, Mel Madada. There is no time like your first." Mel says, "I'm one of you, a mage." Okay, I think we're jumping ahead in the conversation. Where's the part where Mel is like, "Who are you? Why are you doing this? Where are we?" Black Rose Lady says, "We each have our own expressions. Yours is quite rare. An empath, attuned to the ethereal, able to sense others' inner selves, and bend their magic. A conduit and a mirror." So, listen. When you are trying to make a drama that contains a level of fantasy or magic, it helps me to get invested when I understand what the fuck people are talking about. First off, at what point was Mel set up to be an empath? Was there a scene where she possessed an uncanny ability to read other people's emotions? In Season 1, her ability to manipulate people was a result of diplomatic training. And if you want to be like, it was actually her magical empath bullshit, then I'd tell you to fuck off, because this season is not a part of Season 1. Secondly, what the fuck is the ethereal in this world? Are you trying to tell me that Mel can communicate with the spirit world or something? No, fuck off. And then you say that she is a conduit and a mirror that can bend others' magic. Like that's supposed to be an informative explanation. Mel says, "Even now you hide behind illusions." Then the lady transforms into a shadow demon or something and says, "Truth is the greatest illusion of all." So we've graduated from confusing to cringe. Great. Do you think this kidnapping, murderous shadow creature has any interest in sharing a nuanced perspective on truth? Mel says, "I think beneath that mask you're scared. I can see through your tricks. That makes me a threat." Sure, they effortlessly kidnapped you and put you in an illusion world, but you're a threat. I feel like they could have killed you easily. Black Rose Lady says, "For the gifted, arrogance is the ultimate threat. Your power has merit, but should one want you dead, a blade would do nicely." There you go. Mel asks about her brother, and the lady says, "Regrettably, his death was not among your mother's lies. I gave Ambessa every opportunity to atone for her transgression. She chose pride over progeny, but you need not bear her crimes." So Mel realizes that this has been a test to recruit her. The lady says, "Your talents develop quickly. It's no coincidence. The Arcane is waking up." So the Arcane is a thing that wakes up and accelerates magical abilities? This is a lot of information to parse all at once, especially considering that by this point I have no reason to believe that it will remain consistent. Mel asks, "What has my mother done?" And the lady says, "The calamity is approaching, rivaling even the ancient rune wars. Ambessa sits at the helm, blinded by her thirst for legacy. Our efforts to divert her course have foundered. We can't afford another failure." Ah boy. So these Black Rose people can apparently see the future, but they haven't been able to stop Ambessa? Let's start with their assassin, an old lady that failed because she wouldn't just shut up and kill Ambessa when she had the chance. Then we see that the Black Rose can just teleport you to wherever they want, but they don't use it to stop Ambessa. Not to mention all of the ways shapeshifting would be useful as a tool of assassination. You can't show me the Black Rose Lady having insane power and premonition and also have them be this incompetent. Black Rose Lady concludes by saying that Ambessa hid Mel because she is the thing Ambessa covets most, a weapon. She then offers Mel a necklace as a sign-on bonus. And of course, Mel declines because this lady is obviously evil. I mean, she's killed Mel's assistant and her brother, and held Mel in a magical prison and wrapped her in chains covered in spikes. She also dressed her in some kind of spandex or something. I don't know how that happened. Oh, Mel takes the necklace and agrees to help. Maybe it's my fault for caring.
Wait.
What?
You're evil.
No.
Yeah, no, you're evil. I just looked around, the vibe in here is evil as hell, bro.
That's just like the aesthetic.
No, not just the aesthetics, bro. Like, the fucking energy in here got dark.
She also has to walk all the way from wherever this is. Can't you just teleport her back? The next scene is the burial of Rictus, and it's kind of funny how I feel more for this scene than I did for the baby bomb. Ambessa takes the runes from Rictus's spear, while Dr. Revik is plugging Vander into Victor, who is in now some kind of healing ball. Okay. Ambessa asks about him, and Revik says the blood should sustain him for a short while. Beyond that, it is up to his own will. Then Victor starts talking. He says, "Doctor, your ingenuity deserves praise." Ambessa is surprised that Victor can inhabit the bodies of his followers. And he says, "We are one. This is the glorious evolution. Or it could have been. I sense my twilight approaching. An anomaly festers beneath the hex gates. I believe it has the capacity to complete the Doctor's transformation." At this point, they could tell me that a chicken's egg can help me breathe underwater and I would just have to go along with it. Things just are whatever they need to be at any moment, which, unsurprisingly, makes it hard to be invested. Victor says that he doesn't have the strength to reach the anomaly, so Ambessa says that she will deliver him to it, if he agrees to empower every soldier she brings him. What does she think that entails? Soldiers become a part of Victor's hive mind and do what he wants. What makes you think that he would align with you? Earlier this season, she described mages as having absent honor and absent accountability, and now she wants an ultra magic man to infuse her army with magic? Okay. Victor says, "I will evolve all those willing." And then he transforms former addict guy into one of the robot things that Jace saw in Apocalypse Land. Is this what you want, Ambessa? Next we go over to Vi having flashbacks to plastic explosive Grogu. Jace and Kate are pulling her out, and Jinx is like, "No, Grogu." Then Vi starts seeing Vander sitting next to her. Except it's not Vander, it's Shield Guy. And you really have to wonder if his whole existence is specifically for this moment, because he has had basically nothing in terms of characterization. But I've been through that already. He says it took 3 docs to patch her up. And Vi says, "Loris? It took 8 episodes to even learn his name. Why did..." He goes on to say, "Wasn't sure you'd pull through. Thank that thick noggin of yours." It's just bullshit. Everyone there should be vaporized. But only Vi was seriously injured because of her fat head? And how did they manage to escape Ambessa's army and walk all the way back to Piltover without trouble? You know what? They just did. It was all really hard, and Vi almost died. It took 3 doctors. You gotta believe us. Vi says, "Where are Kate and Jinx?" And Loris says, "Kate wanted to be the one to tell you." There's no way they'd kill Jinx, so she's probably in jail. We go over to Kate and Maddie. Maddie says, "Maybe we can negotiate." And Kate replies, "Not with Ambessa. She'll burn Piltover to the ground for my betrayal." Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before you decided to put her in a life-threatening situation. Seriously, it is incredible how minor the benefit was compared to the consequences. I got my main squeeze back, but pissed off the mercenaries. This is what happens when you think with your twat. Maddie is like, "You can't blame yourself." It's her fucking fault, Maddie. Kate says, "I don't need consolation. I need a plan." Then Vi storms in and says, "Arrested?" And every person watching this with 2 goddamn brain cells said, "Yes, you stupid fucking cunt." 3 dead counselors, 20 plus dead enforcers, several more dead or injured from the gas blast. As retarded as it is, Caitlyn is the leader of this city, and she has a responsibility to it to provide justice. God damn, you are a fucking idiot. Kate is like, "I can handle this, Maddie. Go check on my father." Oh, that's right, Caitlyn has a father. You'd be forgiven for forgetting that considering how irrelevant he is. Vi says, "She saved your life, even knowing you'd never do the same for her." Oh, that doesn't help anything, my sweet little tard blossom. Like, it's just so easy to quote Commodore Dorrington here. One good deed is not enough to redeem this bitch of a lifetime of wickedness. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Caitlyn says, "We'll never know, will we? You didn't let me in on that part of your plan." And Vi replies, "Clearly the right call, since you still can't trust her enough not to shove her in a box." Good God, this is painful. What has Jinx even done to earn Kate's trust? One moment of saving her life is not enough, especially when there is a clear ulterior motive in protecting Vander. Also, I want to go over this plan that Vi had. It is portrayed as her randomly following Revik until she stumbles across Kate. From there, Kate and Vi go to Ambessa. There was never a discussion of any plan with Jinx, unless Vi took a quick second to leave the conversation with Kate and then come back. But that is not communicated at all. This season is ass. Kate says, "Trust. You think I'm so daft that I can't recognize a contingency? She wasn't there for my benefit. She was there because you didn't trust me to follow through. And Vi says, can you blame me? Again, there was no way for Vi to discuss this with Jinx because she didn't know Kate was there. Vi goes on to say, how long were you saddled up with that shifty, self-serving war pig? She oinked poison in your ear and you just ate it. How exactly does one eat poison that has been oinked in your ear? Fucking hell! What happened to the dialogue writers? Kate says, I know. The only thing Jinx cared about was getting you to safety. Then she just surrendered. I didn't even have time to think before they hauled her off. I'm sorry, what? Someone actually believed she was the real Jinx? Why did I remind myself of that? Also, it's amusing that they have tried to remove Kate from being responsible for Jinx's arrest, because this goddamn show is actually on Violet's side. Holy hell. Kate goes on to say that Jinx is being held in a bunker while I decide what to do. I was waiting for you to recover. Why? The opinion of Violet isn't exactly impartial. Vi says, Kate, she's changed. And Kate says, we can't erase our mistakes. None of us. And Vi says, who decides who gets a second chance? I mean, if you count each act of violence as a chance, we're looking at maybe over a dozen chances Jinx has had. And as for the question, who decides? How about the families of the dead enforcers? Or Marcus's daughter? Or Caitlyn's dad? Or the families of the other counselors? Or the people that got railed by the gas pass? Basically, Jinx has to get forgiveness from all of Piltover at this point. And I think it's worth pointing out that Kate says we can't erase our mistakes, but she will do nothing to at least try and rectify the damage done by the Grey attack on the Undercity. Anyway, we move on to a scene of Caitlyn visiting Jinx. We see that Jinx isn't eating her food, and she says, if you're here to kill me, make sure to finish the job. Shut up! Oh, boo-hoo, woe is me, I've lost my Grogu. No one knows what it's like to lose a family member but me. This kind of feels fucking deserved, but the show just wants you to feel bad for Jinx. Kate says, Vi thinks you've changed. And Jinx says, she can't accept what you and I know. There are no happy endings. And we get a shot of Jinx with her hair all loose and her fingers bloody. It is truly incredible how hard they want me to feel bad for Jinx. But they cannot bring themselves to do it honestly. I felt worse for Jinx in the first season when she was actively portrayed as a bad person, because there was an earnestness to the struggle of the character. And let's be frank, the first season not being batshit insane helped out immensely. In this season, they are just trying to manipulate me with obvious tricks. It shows that they don't respect the emotions of the audience. They only want to use them for their own gain. Kate says, there won't be a trial. I'm giving you this one chance to account for your actions. All of the pain you've caused. Then she angrily bangs on the cell and says, no amount of good deeds can undo our crimes. It's like she's trying to convince herself of this, because I already know what the show thinks. Jinx is a hero now, and Caitlyn is a big meanie. What Caitlyn says isn't even true anyway. Crime is on a spectrum, so depending on the severity, you can make amends quite easily. But Jinx hasn't even bothered to entertain earning forgiveness. Jinx says, do what you came here to do. And Kate says, hating you, I hated myself. I just don't have the energy for it any longer. Oh, good for you. That just leaves everyone else in Piltover. There are plenty of people who will happily hate Jinx for you, myself included. Then Jinx says, I didn't know your mom was there. It probably wouldn't have made a difference, but I didn't know. Oh, that made me angry. First off, it doesn't make a difference, so I don't know why you bother beyond the writers trying to cope about this. Secondly, I don't believe you didn't know. Not only was Kate's mom a member of the council, the Curaman name is quite prominent. They cleaned up the Grey, they patronize inventors, they are well known. Silco would have this information and want to keep tabs, so to speak, on all of the counselors. And by extension, his closest allies would know this stuff as well. And of course, let's not forget, Jinx went to Caitlyn's house to kidnap her. I feel like the knowledge of Caitlyn's home comes with a little bit of ancillary information. Thirdly, if Jinx from Season 1 knew that Kate's mom was in there, she would have fired that rocket even faster. Jinx hated Caitlyn for stealing her sister. She asked Vi to kill her. The writers want to make Jinx a hero, but they have to deal with the events of Season 1. So instead of having Jinx seek redemption through hard work and a willingness to right the wrongs, they have it be that she was ignorant of the death she might cause. They can't have it be that she was wholly in the wrong, because then they wouldn't be able to use these shortcuts to reach her heroism. I find this very offensive when they are trying to have a theme about forgiving those who wronged you in order to reach a level of inner peace. Instead of exploring the path to forgiveness and the effort and self-reflection it takes to reach that point, the show is like, just forgive, bro. This season has no business exploring the nature of forgiveness. It doesn't have the moral literacy to grapple with such a concept. Anyway, the next scene shows Mel arriving by boat, and I find this kind of interesting. You see, she was teleported away to an illusion prison for a few days. Then she had the conversation with Black Rose Lady. After that, she had to walk and then sail her way back to Piltover. This apparently took months. Either that or she was in the prison for months, which didn't seem to be the case. They had to have her arrive at a specific time, so they delayed her return. The reason I find this interesting is that they have accounted for a specific time frame with her, even though it is arbitrary, but they didn't account for Vi having to tell Jinx the Caitlyn plan. But moving on, we see that Jace is hanging out in the council room, and we get flashbacks to the explosion. All of this just really serves to remind me how hard my investment fell off from this show. Mel comes in and asks Jace what happened to him, and he says it doesn't matter. In other words, you are not telling us because it would ruin the writer's mystery box, because it actually matters a lot. Instead of pressing him, Mel just goes over to, something happened to me too, and Jace concludes, you're the reason we didn't die in the attack. I don't know how he reached this conclusion beyond having specific information he couldn't possibly have, but you know how it is with this season. Characters just have the information necessary to move the plot forward. Mel says, it started then, feelings I couldn't explain, but this, I still don't fully understand. So let me get this straight. A surprise Jinx rocket was enough to tease out this power, but being threatened at gunpoint and nearly stomped to death didn't make it appear. What about the first Black Rose kidnapping? I got the impression that the Black Rose wanted to tease it out or something, but it only works when you have a few milliseconds to dodge a rocket? Okay, sure. Jace is like, why just me? Why not all of them? Pretty sure she just told you, man. She didn't know she could do it. And she reiterates this. But Jace says, how do I know you aren't lying to me? You used me and Victor for Hextech, called us investments. And Mel's response is, two brilliant young inventors who shared a penchant for impossible surprises, carrying magic from myth to machine, rallying the hope and hearts of a nation. You were a wise investment. Mel is really missing the point here. It's not about the fact that they were a wise investment, it's about the fact that she used them to accomplish her own ends. This episode just established her as an empath, and yet she can't figure out the actual problem. Either that or she is just lying here. But just like Jinx, the show is on Mel's side. But we don't really have time for this character conflict because Victor is here now. He's in control of his newly formed robot. Jace instinctually takes a shot at him, but Victor dodges and says, allow us a moment of civility, we must talk. And Jace is like, Victor, how did you get in here? I mean, he has this crazy limber robot, I doubt it was hard. Plus, Heimerdinger and Echo were able to sneak in no problem, and Vi was able to get into the Hextech lab. Frankly, the Consulate has the shoddiest security in the world, especially considering that it's home to the ruling body of Piltover and the heads of scientific achievement. Also, Mel doesn't react at all to Jace calling this thing Victor. She just accepts everything right away. I guess the empathic abilities are working now. Victor says, had you given me the chance, I would have shown you the merits of my work, our work. And Jace replies, no, this is your obsession. Everything you've done to these people you did alone. Then Jace attacks. You know, I feel like a good way to convince Victor that his plan won't work is to tell him about the apocalypse world. And if Victor doesn't believe him, he can just read his mind like he did with all the others. But no, action scene. Victor says, I would prefer to complete my mission in peace, but the Noxian has other intentions. He then sneaks up on Mel, but she uses her magic shield to protect herself. It doesn't really do much, but Jace hits the robot with a hammer blast. Jace goes for a swing, but Victorbot just sort of grapples him. He says, Jace, fear clouds your judgment. This chain of events started with you. In my confusion, I was unable to reconcile this, but I now understand. The glorious evolution is destined. Let us instead do this once again, as partners. Alright, I guess it's time to talk about Victor. By the end of Season 1, he came to understand what his desperation/obsession had cost him. Sky was now ash, and he made Jace promise to destroy the Hex Core. He says, "We lost ourselves, lost our dream. In the pursuit of great, we failed to do good. We have to make it right." He weighed his own life against Hextech and decided the cost wasn't worth it. Cut to a few weeks later, and he's merged with the Hex Core and is using it to assimilate people into his own consciousness. What am I to assume beyond the Hex Core has taken over his personality? There wasn't a gradual realization that assimilation was the only way. He's basically just there. Jace says, "My partner died in this room," and Victor replies, "It was my sincere desire to avoid this." Which I guess means that he's either going to kill Jace or assimilate him. So much for only taking the willing, eh? Victor starts doing a strangle, but Mel comes in with her shield powers. This gives Jace the opportunity to push the robot against the shield and blast the load on his chest. Really lucky that blast didn't go through Mel's shield and kill her. Hell, all of this is pretty lucky. If Mel showed up 10 minutes later, Jace would be dead. And I don't know how a hammer blast to the head barely did anything, but at close range it kills it. The thing moves so fast that it could have killed both Mel and Jace easily, but Victor had to go for the slow strangle. Didn't really feel compelled to give your best friend a quick death, huh? Victor says to Revik, "You may begin the process, Doctor." So I guess this one interaction where nobody explained anything to each other was enough for Victor to give up on the notion of preserving Vander's humanity. Cool, I just love it when characters play parkour with their principles. The next scene is of sad Jinx in the jail cell. She's playing with a hex crystal. Did she hide it in her sphincter? Why did nobody search her for— fuck it. Silco shows up, but fortunately, it's a hallucination of this new cringe Jinx, so I can disregard this. Also, it's interesting that Jinx is more torn up about Grogu's death than she ever was about Silco. But anyway, not Silco says, "Killing is a cycle, long before Vander and me, and it will continue, long after the two of you." Yes, I remember the point of the first season, thanks. Jinx says, "I'm done running in circles." Then Silco says, "We build our own prisons, bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments, walls of self-doubt and accepted limitation. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us. I thought I could break free by eliminating those I deemed my jailers. But Jinx, I think the cycle only ends when we find the will to walk away." This TED Talk was brought to you by Silco Smith. Seriously though, I think this speech is mostly fine, except for the ending. You can find lots of ways to resolve the cycle beyond walking away. And in Jinx's case, there is a lot of restitution that she owes. If I'm to take this as an inner monologue, then what she is telling herself is that she needs to run away from the problems she caused. This season has a lot of talk about forgiveness, but the vast majority of people will require you to show a willingness to repair the damage you caused. If Jinx were to walk away from this, she would basically be running from justice and the debt she owes society. But she wouldn't do that. She's a hero, don't you know? With a great body count comes great responsibility. Anyway, Vi is here now. Why aren't there any guards with her? Heck, why isn't she in a cell? Fraternizing with a terrorist has to at least be cause for criminal charges. Vi starts fiddling with some keys and she says, "I swiped these from the guard station. If you come help use all that explosive potential for..." I'm sorry. It's hard to get through this without laughing. Use all of that potential for good. Maybe we can rewrite your story, like you did with Zahn. Maybe if Jinx gasses the Undercity with you, that will bring balance to the Force or some shit. So, something to think about is how Powder was trying to use her explosive potential for good back in Season 1. The intention was to save the people she cared about, and, it didn't go very well. Arguably, it's the catalyst for the rest of her story. And when Vi says that we can rewrite your story like you did with Zahn, I'm curious what she's referring to exactly. The reason Jinx was worshipped by the Jinxers was apparently because of the air blast she caused in Episode 3. She didn't do anything after that until the prison break. So, Jinx changing her story in Zahn was the result of a terror attack on Piltover. Not exactly a good reference point. Anyway, Jinx says, "Sure, Vi," and then Vi opens the cell and hugs her. Then Jinx says, "You're never gonna give up on me." Together forever we two. Ah shit, that's the wrong one. Yeah, I don't care about these two anymore. You ruined it with your avalanche of shitty writing. Jinx punches Vi in the gut and then locks her in the cell. She says, "You don't need to worry about me anymore. You don't need to feel guilty about being happy. You deserve to be with her." Yep, no guilt with Caitlyn at all. Jinx goes on to say, "There's no good version of me." Yeah, fuck off. Vi says, "What are you going to do?" And Jinx says, "Break the cycle." The implication being that Jinx is going to do a KYS. Vi then punches a wall, and it sounds like she shatters her goddamn wrist. Holy crap. Ah well, give her 3 doctors in 5 minutes and she'll be just fine. Next we go over to Jace and Mel. Jace says, "I'm sorry, I've been an idiot, and an ass. You're hurting too." Man, comparatively Mel got a vacation, and I don't know how Jace was an idiot or an ass. He brought up a good point about Mel using him, because it was true. It's like he's gaslighting himself here just to talk about how amazing Mel is. Mel says, "For as long as I can recall, I have chased the archetype of a Madada." No, actually. You didn't want to do things Ambessa's way. You preferred the game of politics over the annihilation of your enemy. And Ambessa sent you away because you weakened her. To quote, "I couldn't endure the look in your eyes whenever I made the necessary decisions to keep us safe." Mel goes on to say, "I believed it my calling to merit the blood in my veins. It was all a lie. This blood is alien to me, yet it has dictated the course of my entire life." Again, no. She made a lot of decisions of her own accord. It had nothing to do with fate. The empath stuff is bullshit. This season isn't canon. Jace says, "I have been confused about a lot lately, but there is one thing I know in my bones. There is no force in this world that can control you." You have her say all of this obvious bullcrap just so Jace can reaffirm how amazing she is. I'm bored. Next, we get a council meeting. Wait, what? We're doing those now? I wish this Dracula guy back here was on the council. I feel like he would say some cool shit. If he was in a good show, that is. Oh hey, it's Savika and Echo's number 2. The fuck are they doing here? Are they the leaders of the Undercity now? The leaders of the Undercity in the heart of Piltover for a meeting. Sure, no danger there. Jace is like, "We got a big bad thing about to happen and we need to work together." And we see some people evacuating and training. Look, alright, it's not my fault they made me completely apathetic to all of this. I suppose I should try and go through this bit by bit. I chose to make a critique of this, after all. It starts off with everyone doing a bit of hushed conversation. Then Jace comes in and goes, "Quiet!" Which feels like a bit much, but he goes on to say, "We don't have much time. A storm is coming." Already this feels like a generic speech. A storm is coming? Really? The likes of which Piltover, perhaps Runeterra itself, has never faced. Oh god, it must be like 100 Jinxes. He reveals the robot and explains that it attacked them and that they barely survived, and that there are hundreds more on the way. He also says that the Noxian General is leading them. And I would just fucking love to hear Caitlyn explain why. Here we start to get shots of people doing stuff while Jace keeps talking. In this one, some guy's playing piano along with the soundtrack. Jace continues by saying that this isn't a fight for ideals or territory. It's a fight for humanity itself. Okay then, I guess all of the alien creatures can leave. Also, I'm pretty sure Ambessa has ideals. Maybe Caitlyn should tell everyone about the hexagon or whatever the fuck it was. Jace says, "I'm begging every one of you, topside and bottom, to aid us in this coming war." You know, I'm starting to remember that Season 1 had an element of class conflict that was relevant throughout it. Here we had a little bit in Episode 4 and then it dropped off. Now they're just like, "We need to work together because God is coming to spank us." Anyway, we see that Fishman is using floodlights on the bridge as a way to welcome people from the Undercity, I guess. Jace says, "The forces against us are too great. We need everyone we can get." So, here's a question. Why don't we just take a strike team and do a preemptive attack? You know where they are, and you know they are likely in the process of healing. A little bit of gas and some Hextech weaponry could get the job done. Just like with the Kim Barons, yeah? Next we see the checkpoints going down and some old lady closing shop. Okay. Jace continues, "We're abandoning the city's outskirts to stage our defense at the Hex Gates, the last bastion of our salvation. If you choose to flee, don't stop running." Then we see Shieldman teaching recruits how to stab Noxian soldiers. I feel like if one of these guys gets in melee range with a Noxian, then they're already dead. It's probably a much better use of your time to teach them how to aim with a rifle. Jace says, I'm choosing to fight, and I pray that you will join me. And we see that several people walk out, including the representative leaders of the Undercity. We see a number of people evacuate, including this Jinxer girl. She shows up a couple of times throughout this season, including the alt timeline. It's the same thing with the Cringe Squad from the first arc. We are pretending she's important for some reason. She even changes her mind about evacuating and goes to the bridge where Fishman is guarding. Okay. And the last shot is Jace looking at the Hexgate failsafe thing. Back over with Vi, she is seething about things. But then Caitlyn comes to let her out, because releasing a terrorist isn't a crime in Piltover. Vi is like, I really believe she'd help.
Oh, really? What gave you that indication?
That's just an indication we had.
She says, say it, you told me so. I was an idiot to trust her. I went behind your back. I choose wrong every time. And because of it, I lost everyone. God, shut up! This is like the pity party episode. Every character is like, woe is me for my mistakes. Kate walks up to her and says, you really think I needed all the gods at the Hex Gates? Sorry to say, you've grown a bit predictable. Then they start making out. Then Kate says, listen, while you were gone, I saw someone. And Vi says, Kate, I don't fucking care. Then they start doing a sex. Vi gets a drink from the furry cup. It's so... Why? Oh God, why did you do this to me? This could be a freaking essay in and of itself. Where do I even begin? I guess Violet. In this episode, she puts everything on the line to help Jinx, breaking the biggest terrorist in Piltover's history out of prison on a whim, because she never gives up on her sister, except for that time she did. The relationship between them is suddenly so meaningful that she will do anything for Jinx, and yet she holds no value for the relationships of other people. Vi wants to eat a taco. Maddie can get cucked. Vi in this scene is incredibly selfish and inconsiderate, but some weirdo out there really wanted this to happen. The character be damned. Furthermore, Jinx has just said a number of very alarming things to Vi. The kind of stuff that should make her very worried, to the point of finding Jinx ASAP. But screw that, canoe rides are my jam. The events that led us here are nothing short of contrived, and Vi has been agreeing with every insane idea that comes her way. But they play the scene off as if it is a meaningful climax of these characters' relationship. Caitlyn's part in this is even worse. There is no consideration for the responsibility she has to the city she rules, all of the people that are owed a chance to see justice be served, all of the lives that were destroyed. Those don't matter. She facilitated Jinx's release because she wanted to play hide the muscle in the clam. Not to mention the fact that they are currently prepping to fend off a crazy warlord and her god in a ball. If it was two random soldiers or something, it would be understandable. But Kate is the freaking military leader of the city. That comes with a lot of responsibility, one would think. She should be spending every possible moment doing what she can to ensure victory, especially in a world-ending scenario. And this next bit is inconsequential by comparison to everything else, but why are they doing this in Jinx's cell? With the blood and the stank and maybe poo in the corner somewhere. I feel like there should be a term for this. Like fornicating on top of your failures or something. I feel it is also worth comparing the scene with Jace and Mel from Season 1. Besides being beautifully animated, it is juxtaposed with Victor at his lowest, and the Hex Core adapting to his blood. Meanwhile, Jace has just brokered a deal that essentially makes him the most powerful man in the city, and now he gets hammer time. You also have the Hex Core reacting in such a way that makes parallels to... well... The Season 2 scene is nothing deeper than two chicks getting their horny on. Normally something like this, however simple, would get me acting up. But given how we got here, I cannot help but find this gross in so many ways. They have accidentally created an incredible litmus test. Is this sequence good because lesbians, or is it bad for all the reasons I mentioned? God, it's just so fucking cringe. Back at the Noxian camp, we see that Mel has come for a visit. You would think that would be ill-advised given all that has transpired, but hey, maybe Mel will try to talk Ambessa out of being retarded. Ambessa is heating up the Rictus runes when Mel walks in. Ambessa is pleasantly surprised at first, but Mel says she knows about the Black Rose, and asks what really happened to her brother. Ambessa says, your brother was struck with curiosity, he got caught in their web and with every action grew more deeply entangled. Well, that's not really an answer, is it? Mel's response is, so you let him die. And Ambessa slaps her. which feels appropriate, because what the hell, Mel? I get that the evil shadow cult lady told you Ambessa had a choice, but do you really think Ambessa would just give up on protecting her family? Ambessa says, "He was all the sweetness in my heart. For that they took him, carved into me a wound that will never close. I pray you never suffer the agony of being forced to forsake one child to save another." Her saying this is easily the best moment in the episode. But the question still hasn't been answered. What happened? Mel says, "You should have come to me." And Ambessa replies, "You would have made the impossible intolerable. I did what you could not. For you. For the family." Again, it's nice to see they remember why Ambessa sent her away, but still, what happened? Mel says, "Piltover has nothing to do with your feud. Board your boats, leave our shores. I will join you. We can avenge Kino together." Right, so we're moving on, I guess. Ambessa says, "This is more than vengeance. These mages dangle over us a sword that impales us should we rise too high. Their very nature violates the most core of Noxian principles, that every one of us is equal on the battlefield, that through cunning, sweat, and steel, we shape our destinies." Alright, first off, do we have to add those to the triangle? Pretty soon it will just be a circle. And as for the core of Noxian principles, I thought that was strength, not equality on the battlefield. And if you don't like mages, then why are you helping Victor attain ultimate power? He's comparatively a god of the mages at this point. Ambessa goes on to say, "The fact you've come to parlay for your friends' lives proves you still lack the wrath necessary to defeat an enemy like the Rose. I've found another way. Imagine, an army that never need fear death." And then we see a group of Victor robots floating and staring at the Victor Ball. Ambessa! Why does this not concern you? I feel like I could say more on this, but you'll forgive me if I give up on the conversation at this point. We then cut back to the part where Victor says, "Doctor, you may begin the process." And then we see that Revik has hooked up a bunch of stuff to some other stuff and is now doing stuff. Took him like 10 years to make Vanderwolf, but now in a couple of days we have all this. Revik starts doing the thing, and we see that Sky is saying goodbye. Victor says, "I will miss our talks." And she says, "No, you won't." And then we get our music video. Damn, so close. Almost got an episode without one. We also see that Vander's memories are getting burned away. And then everybody gets transformed into Victorbots, I guess. So I really have nothing for what is happening in this sequence. It's playing emotional music, but I have no context for why I should feel emotional about any of this. It's a bunch of magical flim-flammery that just happens. And I feel like I should talk about Sky. What exactly is she? Is she the soul of Sky that got vaporized by the Hex Core? Or is she a figment of Victor's imagination? Why did she lead Victor to the Addict Cave? Why does she need to be vaporized a second time for Victor to evolve? Like a lot of things this season, she feels like she is just there to arbitrarily point a character in a certain direction. Almost literally in her case. But hey, we've made it to the end. Only one more episode. It's not any better.
Professor, can you wire my head directly into the battle grid?
I can wire anything directly into anything. I'm the professor.